Well, Pope Francis is expected to speak publicly for the first time on his Canadian visit at a meeting this morning with First Nations, Inuit and Métis people in a community south of Edmonton.
Yesterday, the Pope was greeted with a traditional presentation from a group of indigenous drummers and singers before visiting with elders. Today, he heads to Musquatchees, an indigenous community south of Edmonton, and that's where he's expected to apologize for the Catholic Church's role in the residential school system. So
joining us now is Pam Palmater, activist and also chair in Indigenous governance at Toronto Metropolitan University. Pam, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's get into it. You're saying that, the pomp and circumstance of the Pope's visit should not overshadow the ongoing issues that the Church is responsible for, namely a lot of the child sexual abuse that happened at these residential schools and continues today because the Catholic Church has been kind of instrumental in even setting up a fund called the Church Abuse and Molestation Insurance kind of plan to cover up for these priests and perpetrators.
Right. Well, I mean, first and foremost, the survivors that need the Pope's visit and the Pope's apology, I mean, that's important to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not all survivors have the same experiences or same desires. So they deserve whatever justice, whatever apologies they need. But there's the other side where many Native people are very concerned. What happened to all the sex offenders from all of these schools? Because we know the federal government spent over $1.5 million, hired 17 private investigators, and identified over 5,300 perpetrators. Less than 50 were ever pursued to, any kind of justice or criminal charges. So what happened with all of these sex offenders? And when you look at it at a global basis, what happened is when you don't address these sex offenders and you don't monitor them, many of them all around the world have gone on to commit more sex offenses and abuse more children. And those are the kinds of questions that aren't being asked right now beyond just the apology.
So let's get beyond the apology then, Pam. So who then has the responsibility in your eyes to sort of handle this? Is this strictly the Catholic Church? Does the government need to be involved? And if so, what do they need to do? What sort of steps need to be taken?
Well, it's really both. So when you think about having sex offenders in the Catholic Church, I mean, from all of the inquiries done all over the world, including in Australia and the French inquiry, we know that the Catholic Church, as a matter of policy, has covered up the abuses. So it's not that they didn't know, it's that they covered up, they wanted to protect their image. So they have a significant legal and moral responsibility to actually identify all the perpetrators, go after them, prosecute them, and make sure they're not hurting other kids. But so does the government, because when you think about here in Canada, federal and provincial governments have legal and moral obligations to protect its citizens from sex offenders, and neither party has done that.
Yeah, and Pam, I read the article that you wrote, and you say that this apology needs to go beyond, a carefully worded apology. And we saw it in April in Rome at the Vatican, and now here in Canada. Do you think that it will go beyond just words this time?
Well, all we can do is hope, right? And that, because there's two real issues here. There's the apology, the wording of the apology itself, and then what are the actions that you take afterwards to comply with the apology, to make amends, to make reparations. So if the apology is in any way limited or in any way tries to make excuses, that's just going to be re-traumatizing. They need to name the crimes, accept responsibility, apologize, and say, here's what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. And then all of the other things, pay the compensation they promised to and they haven't. Give the land back that the churches are on. Return all of the stolen Native artifacts and crafts and regalia that were taken. Rescind the doctrine of discovery. There's so many substantive things they could do beyond just an apology.
Yeah, a lot of things on that action plan. We will, of course, follow the Pope's visit very closely and see, Pam, where this all leads. Appreciate your time this morning here joining us on CP24 Breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you.